We are officially on the road to WrestleMania. But let's not talk about current day WWE. But we're still going to be talking about the road that leads us to the grandest stage of them all. More specifically, the main event of WrestleMania. We're going to take a step back in time to the era of ruthless aggression. I'll probably insert something here that would say it a little bit better.
Ruthless aggression.
What if not the Royal Rumble winner was changed, but the champion that they faced at WrestleMania was switched? What if they went for the other brand's champion? And that's what we're going to look at. So we'll start off in 2003. Obviously, we know that 2002 was the rookie year of Brock Lesnar, the next big thing managed by the ECW original and the ECW originator in Paul Heyman. And Lesnar had a great 2002, defeating The Rock to become the youngest world champion in WWE history at the time. He would go on to WrestleMania 19 after winning the 2003 Royal Rumble and take on Kurt Angle over on his brand, which was the SmackDown brand. However, what if things were changed? What if he went over to Monday Night Raw, where he originally started out when he made his debut in 2002, and he went to challenge the World Heavyweight Champion, the biggest and baddest heel at the time, the person who people loved to hate, so to speak, in the game, Triple H. Triple H versus Lesnar, I think at that point, I think when it would have happened at that point in time, it wouldn't have been as popular, but looking back on it now, I think that would have been a great match. You know, Triple H versus Brock Lesnar, they probably would have had Lesnar lose, but at the same time, I mean, Triple H did take losses here and there, but, you know, this was right in the midst, in the beginning, in the lead up to the reign of terror for Triple H, where he just held on to that World Heavyweight title with every fiber of his being. And I think Triple H versus Lesnar would have been a great match at WrestleMania. Angle versus Brock was amazing, so I'm not saying to change that. But if we were to change it, I think Triple H and Lesnar would have been very interesting. It would have been the new breed versus the old breed, the new cloth versus the old cloth. And I think it would have been pretty cool to see. Now, who wins that match? That's really what it comes down to. I think it's 50-50. I think they probably have more grounds to give it to Triple H because he's a proven competitor, but I feel like they still would have given it to Brock Lesnar, even if he would have faced off with Triple H. I think they would have given it to Lesnar. And yeah, I think Triple H versus Lesnar would have been a great match, and we did get it like later on in the WWE, but during the Ruthless Aggression era, it's something we really didn't see aside from a little like triple threat match or something, I think at Global Warming, the Global Warming Tour in 2002. Global Warning, I'm saying warming. It's Global Warming, but Global Warning. But yeah, I think Triple H versus Lesnar would have been great. The Game versus the next big thing. Evolution versus, you know, Paul Heyman and Lesnar. I would have liked to see it. The question is who wins. I would say they probably go with Brock Lesnar to win, which I think would have been the right decision, but I could have easily seen them giving that to Triple H. But now we'll move on to 2004. We obviously know that in 2004, it was Chris Benoit who started the match out in the first two competitors and went all the way, eliminating the Big Show to punch his ticket to Madison Square Garden and WrestleMania 20. Now, Chris Benoit is somebody that I don't think is very popular along the YouTube wrestling community. He isn't very popular in general, and we know the reasons why. If you don't know the reasons why, use Google and watch the Dark Side of the Ring episode, and that'll tell you just about everything you need to know. But if Benoit wouldn't have gone on to face Triple H and Shawn Michaels in that triple threat match, we would have probably gotten two best friends facing off at WrestleMania and Eddie Guerrero facing off with the rabid Wolverine, Chris Benoit. And they were best friends. I think that would have been an amazing, a phenomenal match. And if we got that, we could have also gotten another iteration of Triple H versus HBK for the World Heavyweight title. So this is one where I kind of think this was the best option for 2004. I would have loved to see Benoit take on Eddie Guerrero at WrestleMania 20. I think that this would have been one of the best technical wrestling matches. I think this could have rivaled, Guerrero versus Mysterio back at Halloween Havoc 97. And, when I was younger, because I'm not that young now, I won't tell you my age, but I'm not that young now, I was never a big fan of Eddie Guerrero. I was never a big fan of Rey Mysterio. I was never a big fan of Chris Benoit. When I was a kid, I was a big fan of The Undertaker. I was a big fan of the heels. I loved the heels. I didn't like Triple H. I'll tell you that. I didn't like Triple H. I never liked Triple H. He always pissed me off. But if we look at it for the topic of the video that we're discussing, I think Chris Benoit versus Eddie Guerrero at WrestleMania 20 could have been one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. It could have rivaled, like I said, it wasn't a WrestleMania match, but Guerrero versus Mysterio back at Halloween Havoc. It could have rivaled Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero at WrestleMania, I believe it was WrestleMania 21. And the list goes on and on and on. I mean, I think Benoit and Guerrero was the right choice. That is actually something I would have changed. Obviously, we wouldn't have gotten that moment with Guerrero holding up the WWE Championship and Benoit holding up the World Heavyweight Championship, but I almost feel like that would be worth sacrificing to get Benoit versus Guerrero at a WrestleMania because, at the time we didn't know, but we didn't have these guys for that many years following WrestleMania 20. But yeah, I think Benoit moving over to the SmackDown brand like he was in 2002 and challenging Guerrero for the Undisputed Championship, I think that would have been a great idea. And I honestly would have gone with that over what we got. But let's move on to 2005. So 2005, we know it was a portion of the OVW4 in the final two of the Royal Rumble. Raw's Animal Batista taking on SmackDown's Chain Gang Soldier, SmackDown's Doctor of Thugonomics in John Cena. We had the dual elimination. We had the restart of the match. We had the infamous blowing out of the quads of the chairman of the board, VKM. But it was Batista who threw Cena over the top rope following a spine buster and punched his ticket to WrestleMania Goes Hollywood. Now, let's say we don't get Batista versus Triple H, even though I will tell you right now, I think that was the way to go. That was the correct option. But this video isn't about the correct options. This video is about a different path being chosen. We had the story in line. We had the lead up with the breakup of Evolution, with Batista finally getting one over on the manipulative game Triple H during still the Reign of Terror. But at the end of the day, like I said, this doesn't have to be the better option. This is just the different option. And if Batista wouldn't have picked Triple H, he would have gone to take on John Bradshaw Layfield for the WWE Championship. Now, does that mean that we would have gotten Triple H versus Cena in 2005? That would have been an interesting match. I mean, think of it. We got it the next year at WrestleMania 22, so it's kind of like foreshadowing if the Rumble winner made a different choice. We got that choice the next year at WrestleMania 22 in Chicago. But let's say Batista, he picks a different opponent, and John Cena faces somebody else, or they don't go with Cena to face off for the world title at WrestleMania. Let's say you get JBL, the leader of the cabinet, with Orlando Jordan, the Basham brothers, etc., etc. You get JBL versus Batista. Now, we got that match later on in 2005, going into 2006. So we ended up seeing these matches happen, even though it didn't happen with his choice following the Rumble victory. But I wouldn't have been a big fan of this happening at WrestleMania. I mean, like I said, we ended up getting it at SummerSlam 2005, so if he would have made a different choice, we would have gotten a WrestleMania 22 match early, hypothetically, and we would have gotten a SummerSlam 2005 match a few months earlier, hypothetically. So we did end up seeing these matches if that was the choice. But at the end of the day, who wins this match? I mean, I think we all know that Batista would have won. I don't think we can sit here and ponder, they could have given it to JBL, they could have given it to JBL. No, JBL was losing at WrestleMania regardless if it was Cena or Batista. And at the end of the day, like I said, the Animal was walking out with gold. So if he would have moved over to SmackDown a little earlier, before the 2005 draft, then yeah, I think Batista would have beat JBL and won the title. But I'm glad with the way they went with it. At WrestleMania 21, I think Batista versus Triple H, Cena versus JBL. That was the right choice. They made the right choice. But like we said, it could have been different. All right, Royal Rumble 2006. Again, a early Rumble entrant going all the way, winning. This time, however, it was the David versus Goliath, the true definition of David versus Goliath, with everybody's favorite luchador, Rey Mysterio, making it the entire way in memory and in honor of his friend who passed away in Eddie Guerrero. Rey Mysterio. Now we know WrestleMania 22, we just talked about it a little bit. We got John Cena defending his WWE Championship against Triple H, and we got a triple threat match between Kurt Angle, who was the World Heavyweight Champion, the Legend Killer Randy Orton, and Rey Mysterio. And Rey Mysterio ended up leaving WrestleMania 22 with the World Heavyweight Championship. But let's say we switch things up. Let's say Rey Mysterio says, you know what, I'm going to go over to Monday Night Raw. Now, we know Mysterio ended up moving over to Monday Night Raw in the 2008 draft, but this would have been a little bit earlier. And let's say he takes on John Cena. Now, this is also a match that we ended up getting later on in the end of the Ruthless Aggression era on Monday Night Raw, more in the PG era, because I think it was in 2010. With Rey Mysterio versus John Cena for the WWE Championship. It was at the end of a tournament which took place on Monday Night Raw heading into, I believe it was actually 2011. I think it was the SummerSlam, Summer of Punk debacle, and Rey Mysterio lost to John Cena. Cena ended up winning the WWE Championship. I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But let's say we get Rey Mysterio lasting the entire time in the Royal Rumble, taking on Super Cena. Because in 2006, right, that's where the Super Cena gimmick really started to take off. It was more in 2007 and 2008 where Cena barely ever took a pinfall loss, and he never really lost clean. So Rey Mysterio versus Cena, it would have been a great match. The only reason I don't think it would have worked in terms of a WrestleMania main event is because they were both faces. And making a face versus face match in one of the main events for WrestleMania, especially in Chicago, I don't really think it would have worked out great because, you know, I don't think Chicago loved Rey Mysterio. They definitely hated John Cena, especially during this time. But I think Cena and Mysterio would have been a good match. But WrestleMania main event worthy, not really, because we didn't have a heel on either side. And Mysterio isn't really ever going to be a heel. I mean, it's not like he was going to unmask in the WWE like he was unmasked in WCW. But, yeah, I mean, Cena wasn't going to turn heel at this time either. We're going to talk about Cena a lot more for the rest of this video, but we'll get to those discussions in a few short minutes. But at the end of the day, I think Cena versus Mysterio. Good match, yes. Right choice for WrestleMania, no. Who was going to win that match? Honestly, probably Mysterio. I think they would have given it to Mysterio. Because they wanted him to have that feel-good moment at Mania 22. But again, would they have wanted Cena to lose the title in Chicago? Maybe. I think that would have made the crowd pretty happy because they weren't a very big pro-John Cena crowd at that time. But yeah, we're going to move on to 2007 now and talk about The Undertaker. And this is where we're going to end off the video. I was going to keep it going into 2008, 2009, 2010, but it would be a lot of similar matches that we got those years anyway, whether it was a couple years down the line, a bunch of different times at pay-per-view. So we're going to end it off with the 2007 Royal Rumble. Now, who won the 2007 Royal Rumble, you might ask? Well, it was the Demon of Death Valley, The Undertaker, who eliminated Shawn Michaels to punch his ticket to WrestleMania 23. Now, we already know John Cena went on to face Shawn Michaels. The Undertaker faced Batista. Both men ended up, I guess you could say, one retained his title in Cena, and The Undertaker went on to win the World Heavyweight Championship after winning the Rumble. But scratch everything we know about this WrestleMania. The right choice was The Undertaker versus John Cena at WrestleMania 23. That's it. Cena and Michaels was a great match. They had a great feud, a great build-up. Batista versus The Undertaker, great match, great build-up, everything. I'm not saying it was a bad choice, but again, this is a video where we talk about different choices, and what better choice could you have made in 2007 than John Cena versus The Undertaker? Now, maybe it would have been smarter to get it in 2009, 2010, 2011. It probably would have had a bigger fight feel. But at the same time, I mean, what's a bigger WrestleMania match than John Cena versus The Undertaker in 2007, when Cena was barely ever taking losses, when The Undertaker was beating everybody who they put in his path, the undefeated streak at WrestleMania. I think John Cena versus Undertaker was the right choice, and I think you turn John Cena heel at this WrestleMania. Now, I also think that if it was a heel turn, maybe you wait a couple years down the line. Maybe you do it at WrestleMania 25, 26, 24, like 24, 25, 26, one of those. Probably a better idea. But I think Cena beats The Undertaker by using underhanded tactics, whether it's a low blow, whether it's a chair shot, whether it's him grabbing the chain that he used to wear around his neck in 2003, 2004, wrapping it around his fist, hitting The Undertaker, hitting him with the AA, hitting him with the Death Valley driver, and getting the 1-2-3 to end The Undertaker's streak. That would have been incredible. I mean, they already had thought about giving the undefeated streak to Randy Orton in 2005, and he turned it down. Maybe Cena and turning Cena heel would have been that one big step that they needed to make in order to really catapult John Cena's heel turn. And I think the best way to turn John Cena heel, I mean, I like what they did recently until, everything fell apart with The Rock, Triple H, and everything like that, but I think him beating The Undertaker, him ending the streak, him taking away one of WrestleMania's most prized possessions would have been an amazing idea, and I think it would have made fans actually want to see Cena win. It would have made fans care about John Cena at that time, and yeah, I love it. I love it. So I think John Cena could have faced The Undertaker, and then what do you do with the WWE, or what do you do with the World Heavyweight title? I mean, you could do Rey Mysterio versus Batista. There's a lot of options you could do. You could have done Mr. Kennedy, facing Batista, because they did have some ideas to make him win the Money in the Bank or go on to win the World Heavyweight title. So there's so many options you could have done. But I think I think The Undertaker versus John Cena at WrestleMania 23 would have been an incredible main event. So that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what ideas you liked for WrestleMania from 2003 all the way through 2007. Let me know in the comments what you would have done, what you would have done differently, and everything in between. Don't forget to hit your favorite finishing move on the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out.